Okay, good morning. I will try to make this short. Okay. It's 11:30. Supposed to be from 11 to 12. So I will try to finish by 12, but it's okay with me, but don't fall asleep. Okay? If you think it's going a bit too slow, just send me a signal, send a big yawn or something. Okay? Feel free. Okay? I think it's been interesting few days for those of you who have been here since Monday and some of you since Wednesday. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sukdev. I am currently a senior security consultant with ISS. We have a booth right outside the door, so if you have questions or you want to share some information with us, we'll be more than happy to talk to you. Okay? So I've also been asked to make this as interesting and as possible and tailor it for the different audiences in the crowd. You would have people who would like to see bits and bytes. You would have people who like to know how to learn something that would go back and perhaps help them in their job, right? So you have you may have students and so on who are very much interested in certain areas of IT, hacking especially. Okay. Now, phishing is getting very popular, right? And can I just have a show of hands? How many of you have not received a phishing email? You have never received a phishing email. So that means everyone has received a phishing email. How many of you have been not fooled by a phishing email? It means that you saw the mail come in, you realize it's a phishing email and you didn't click and you deleted it. How many of you? Okay, good. So you're listening. You know, that's good. So everyone is clever and smart. But I'm sure you would agree with me that a lot of times you can get fooled. At the wrong time, you are tired, you're expecting something, it comes in. For example, let's say you go back today. You receive an email, right, that says 10 seats left. There's going to be a Hack in the Box conference in, say, December. 53 seats going. We forgot to announce this at the conference yesterday, but if you click here and fill in your details, you'll be entered into a lucky draw. Some people might fall for it, right? You give it a limited amount of time, you're tired, you say, oh well, what's there to lose? You click, right? That's one example. Okay. Moving on, the main agenda would be overview of phishing, best practices for policy and education, how phishing leads to internet attacks, and technology solutions. Okay. What is phishing? Okay, we have a definition of phishing there, which is creating a replica of an existing web page and sending a fake email to fool a user into sharing or entering information. It's a form of identity theft. Simple definition of phishing would be, I guess, the use of trust in an email to convince you to perform an action, whether it's entering information or clicking on a link. Okay, either one. Term phishing comes from the fact that internet scammers originally used to phish for particular targets, but now they use the whole net. Okay, they don't use the phishing rod anymore. It makes it a little easier. Phishing is related to a lot of other things. As we go along, we will discuss. Now, is phishing a serious? Oops. I was warned about this. Okay. Is phishing a serious threat? Okay, I have a quotation there from Jen Monroe, FBI. Phishing is the hottest and most troubling new scam on the internet. Some of you may agree, some of you may not. The date on that quote is July 03, but trust me, phishing is becoming bigger. by the day. Okay. Identity theft. Okay. This is a printout I was trying to get just now, or rather a screenshot of today's Star newspaper. Shows a lady who's using a laptop to run her sheep rearing business. So everyone uses a computer, right down to the farmer. Okay? And as we move along, we would see how any one of these people who may not be so advanced or literate or technologically educated as the people in the conference, but they can get fooled by the systems. Identity theft undermines the basic trust on which the economy depends. President Bush, July 2004, when he signed something called the ITPEA. What's the ITPEA? It's a Identity Theft Penalty Enhancement Act. I'm sure you may not be interested in it, but I just reproduced it. And basically it says that anyone who, while engaged in a long list of crimes, knowingly transfers, possesses, or uses without lawful authority someone else's identification, therefore identity theft, which could be done through phishing. And if it's linked to terrorism, then he gets an automatic extra 5 years. Okay? Is phishing a serious threat? Okay. According to some later surveys, 95% of phishing exploits originated from forged addresses. There are 5 new reports every month, but I think that's a small number. 5% of recipients actually respond. So think of the numbers. A spammer, whatever, if he decides to launch an attack, he's not going to send 1 mail. 10,000, a million, 5% of those reply. Each one perhaps donates $100. It's quite a lot of money. Traditionally, it used to be a consumer issue. When you think of phishing, you think of someone sitting at home, clicking a website link, typing in information, and his information gets lost. But over time, this has become more of a business issue, right? Let's take a look at an example. I know you can't see that, so I've blown it up. Okay. Anyone from Microsoft here? Not in this crowd, okay. But anyway, that's a real mail, okay? It's a mail that's, of course, not from Microsoft. It purports that it's from Microsoft. What's telling the user to do is to download a patch, okay? Customers should install a patch at the earliest opportunity, and it seems to be sent out from the administrator of that company, okay? So can you imagine, you're back at your desktop Monday morning, you receive an email from your administrator saying, click here to download a patch, and everything will be fine. Now, you would probably think that you're helping your security administrator and your IT department, right, by patching up your system. Are you going to read where it's from? Are you going to look at the URL? Are you going to look at the HTTP address? Or are you just going to click? Okay, think about it. Tell you what, I'll signal to you and you click. Okay. How do phishers do it? A few different methods. One method, what we call the good link, would be a link leading to a real website, but you get a pop-up window. So the website in the background is real, okay? But you get a pop-up window that's fake. So you're fooled by the background, okay? The second one, link. That's an old method of sending you to a fake web page, okay, that prompts you to enter whatever information that it requires, which is easy to detect. Third one, a form. It's a very old method. They send you a form to fill up and send back, okay. People don't use that anymore. Frames. This is more difficult to detect or protect against. Basically, the HTML page could contain frames where the real website is masked by frames. So you have a real website in the background, and you have a frame that's on top of it, and any information that you enter, perhaps even the URL, you could be happily typing, you could be thinking to yourself that, oh, I remember I clicked a link, now I'm at this page, but hang on, I should type the URL. So you go into this frame, the fake frame, and you type in a URL, happily, www.itrustyou.com, whatever. But it's a frame, so it's actually a fake thing, okay? And then you have the last one, which is a reply, which is basically the account holder or the person is prompted to reply to an email and include confidential information. Okay, simple example of an exploit. Now, of course, the exploits I'm sharing with you would be something that you would probably have heard of before. It's very difficult for the employee of a company to share information on exploits that have not been exposed to the public, okay? Because then a lot of people will be in trouble. Okay? Now, this is an example of an email from Citibank. Okay? And basically, I've masked out the addresses, but it's a simple example. There are a lot of spelling errors. I'm not sure why until now, until yesterday or a few days before, some email spams that I've seen, they still have spelling errors. So maybe you need to buy some dictionaries for the spammers. Okay? It's very weird. What's weirder is that there's a group, the anti-phishing work group, and I went to their website just now just to see if there was something new, and they have a advisory. Now, the last line of that advisory is spelled wrongly, and I was thinking, am I at the real site or not now? And get confused, okay? So maybe they need a spell checker. Okay? I'm sure you've all seen emails where you see the spellings wrong. It just doesn't make sense. The grammar is wrong, and it sends the alarm bells and signals ringing, and you stop. Right? You say, oh, this is fake. But not all of them are that illiterate. Just a clearer shot of it. So basically what happens is you click on the link and you're at their website. Well, how this actually works is an old exploit. It was a patch in IE actually, rather a vulnerability in IE. I think it was patched back in February this year. Okay? You enter whatever you want to enter, and then you put an @ sign and information after that. Okay? And whatever is before is ignored. Okay? By clicking on that particular link, you would have actually gone to a Russian site, okay, in this example. Okay, by clicking on the link, it sends you to the Russian site, and then this is what we call double redirect. Sends you back to a real site. Okay. Citibank. Okay. So it sends you back to Citibank. That's a real page. Okay. The pop-up window is the fake one. What's happened is you click on the link, you've gone to a fake website, and you've been redirected to a real website. So you look at the link, you look at the information at the background, and you say, oh, well, this is something new, Yeah, this must be real. Yes, I heard Citibank is having a whatever promotion, or I remember seeing that lady with a book on the page. This is, real, authentic. So what they're doing is they're building credibility, whether through the form of an email or through a web page that they're showing you. You build the credibility. That's the phishing part, the hooking part. Okay, then you reel them in. Maybe give them a bit more bait and then pull them in. Okay. Now the example that I spoke about earlier was something to do with RFC 2396 and the vulnerability in Microsoft, which has been solved. So I don't think you can go back and try this. Okay. Basically, anything before the @ sign was ignored. It's considered user information. Okay. So you could enter whatever gibberish you wanted at the front, and after the @ sign, that's a real host server. Okay. So what you see is not what you get. You may look at the front part of the URL and be feeling very safe. A few other link tricks. IP address. Instead of showing you the URL and spelling it wrongly or differently, the spammer, the phisher could enter a IP address. And For those of you who are savvy, you may detect it, but for the rest of us, okay, the rest of the people who are using the internet now, we have a lot of senior citizens. Every country is encouraging everyone to use internet. They're going to look at that IP address and say, oh, IP address, numbers, website, must be real, right? So that's to fool you. Long status line, enter a lot of rubbish, and then this is again using the same vulnerability where the @ sign is used, okay? So if you enter something long enough, in certain email programs, you will not see the rest of the URL link, so you will not see where it's really going. Third one, similar names, like www.hackinthebox.org/verify. Now, is that a real link or not? Tell me. Can anyone from the crowd tell me the last link down there, is that real or not? Who says no? Who says yes, it's a real one? Okay, who says no? Sorry again. Yes, why? Yeah, that's an E missing. Okay, but there's a study that's been done that actually shows you that your brain actually reads the first part and the last part of a statement or word, and normally misses the middle part. So that's what he was trying to do, he or she. Okay, yeah. I mean, I typed that out, so that's not a real one. Okay, don't worry. Mouse over. You get an email and you think, oh, there's a link here. What I'll do is I'll click my mouse over the link, roll the mouse over, and I'll see the real address. Well, it's very easy to enter a JavaScript in the same mail message. And when you roll your mouse over, you would see the fake URL that I want you to see, or the spammer or fisher wants you to see. URL is a button. You get a whole email. It's actually a big button, okay? So it doesn't matter where you click in the email, okay? The text that you see is just like, take the example of a web page where you have a submit button. Submit is the text that you see, right? And you click on the button. So I take the submit out, I make it an email message, I make the button bigger, and I send that to you. So you're not clicking on that line link. Anywhere you click accidentally in the message, you're done for, okay? URL encoding, okay? That particular example is using the same vulnerability, but instead of giving you IP addresses or words, you translate it to hexadecimal. It looks a bit more confusing, looks a bit more authentic, right? Because that's what you sometimes see on a real website link. So you think, it must be real, okay? More website tricks, okay? Pop-ups, like the example where you have a real site but with a pop-up window. Floating address bar is easy. You click on the link, you give it a web page, the fake web page, and then where the part where you have the address bar? I put a GIF file there. It's a white bar space with the so I could be sending you to sukdev.com, and then the GIF file says www.timenet.com.my, whatever, So it's just using a graphic. Floating address bar, that's the one. Replacement address bar is a bit more difficult. With the floating address bar, if you move the browser window, you would see the GIF trying to catch up. Okay? But with the replacement address bar, it's a little more difficult. It uses a JavaScript as a table on the web page, okay, to show a fake address bar, but you can type inside it. What has happened at that time is that you have been redirected, okay, or he's using a form. And the last one, fake secure site. Now, how many times when you see HTTPS, you see a lock appear at the bottom right-hand side and you're happy? You say, this is real. Do you look at the cert? Or you click yes, accept? Okay? Most of us click yes, accept. Okay? You don't bother checking whether the cert is from VeriSign, Baltimore, or whoever else. So what are we to do? We have all these problems, what are we to do? Sample FTC recommendations. Don't click on links in emails. Don't email personal or confidential information. Review credit card bank statements as soon as you receive them. Use antivirus software and keep it up to date. These are FTC recommendations, not mine. Okay? Be cautious about opening any attachment or downloading any files. A lot of them make sense. Right? But if you really look at it, a lot of people argue that it's almost like telling you not to use the web. Don't click on links, don't do this, don't do that. Well, don't switch on the computer, right? So you have to find a way to weigh the security with the flexibility. We'll discuss some best practice defenses. You need to also look at policy and education. You need to do risk assessment. These are for businesses, okay? In a lot of risk assessment, people element is ignored. The businesses end up putting technology solutions, but they don't tell people why they are there, how they are used, and what they should do. Okay, so it gets bypassed easily. Security policy, standards, and procedures. You need all this in a business. Security organization. It has to be organized. Someone has to be in charge. Someone has to be responsible. There have to be punishments, enforcement, whatever. Okay. Most important of all, I think personally, is employee education. If you can get the employee to buy in to your idea of why he is important or she is important, then you're better off. If you just put something there, imagine at your desk you have maybe a token reader. Monday morning, someone implements two-factor authentication and you have a token reader. They give you a token. You have no idea what it's for. You don't really care. It's a hassle. Okay, you have to carry it along with you. If you lose it, you have to pay for it. So what are you going to do? You're going to end up leaving it in the token reader and go home. So you've just demolished the whole idea of having the token reader and the token. Okay. So employee education, I feel, is very important. Understanding risk, to get management support, to organize funding, and so on. Basically, you have to, in a business, right? Someone has to sign off the solution, sign off the training, whatever. Okay, whether it's people resource or hardware resource, someone has to pay for it. Okay, and you have to get the management buy-in, and sometimes that's not easy. You have to share with them the risk. You have to do the risk assessment, and you also have to look at the fact that it's no longer personal or individual risk. If someone's sitting at a computer in a company, in a big company, does something wrong, he could put the whole network at stake. It's not only him, it's not only his machine, it's not only his department, okay? It's the whole company. So there's corporate risk, moving from individual risk to corporate risk. Risk of email fraud, okay? So if you're looking at individual, then the risk is that the privacy is compromised, which is a big thing out of Asia and slowly moving to Asia, right? You have a lot of privacy acts and so on. Financial or reputation loss. But in a corporate, your whole business could be shut down. Okay? If the wrong information is shared out, business confidence in your company, if you're a credit card company and information is not correctly kept confidential, then you could lose the confidence of your customers. Okay? Policy standards and procedures. You have to create company-wide policies, make sure enforcement is done, and have clear policies. Okay? Sometimes you have a whole book of policies, but no one reads them except for the first day when they go through orientation, because they are supposed to read. Okay? If there are any HR people here or people involved, you could try to make it a bit more interesting. Give them a test. Make sure they've read it. Make it a game, whatever. Okay? Security organization. You have to ensure there's clear ownership of security policies. You have to clearly identify who are the owners of the policies. Okay? Whose job is it? I've seen a lot of companies where the policy is defined, the owner, the person responsible, left the company 2 years ago. So in the last 2 years, no one's bothered about it because the owner has left. Worse still, his email account may be active, but that's a different thing. Okay? Policy education. Like most email attacks, user education is by far the most important factor, personally. That's what I think. How to make it a success? Well, you have to make it part of the culture, you have to make it more interesting, you have to use a variety of techniques to teach people. Teaching, training is different, right? I remember going to school and university, and a lot of teachers I've met who know the subject matter, but they're not able to teach you or light up the passion in you for that subject. Okay, they're just good at it. So if you go into a room and you have 20 people and you tell them you've got to do this, and you walk out, if you don't appear interested or you can't get them to buy it, they're not going to do it. Okay, they're just going to nod their heads during the 20 minutes, and after that, it's all gone, forgotten. Policy is out of the door. Okay. The market need. Okay, you have to protect users, and businesses, of course, want to protect themselves, right? Recently, I understood that Microsoft has filed about 70 lawsuits in the US, okay, against spammer groups and so on. You may also have heard of the MARIT organization, okay, which is the MTA authorization records in DNS working groups. They were working on something, but it's fallen through at the moment, okay. We need something. The market needs a solution. Is there a magic solution? Let's see. Okay. Protecting users. If you're thinking of individual users, then there are a few different methods that have been discussed widely. Website client authentication. Okay, so you go in to a website, but the client needs something to be authenticated. Okay, the client and the website have to verify each other. Almost foolproof, but implementation is a problem. Second, mail server authentication. Yes, it can be better, but you have a lot of competing standards. Whose standard are you going to agree with? Third, mail authentication, digital signatures, whatever. Again, implementation is the issue. URL-based approaches work at the moment very well, meaning to say that if the link you're going to is recognized in a product, okay, and it basically it's simple URL filtering, it stops you from going there. But how are you going to collect all these links? Number one. Number two, these links must be known, right? If they are known, how are you going to classify them and stop people from going there? Okay, but it works. Okay. Protecting brands, can do DNS registrations. Don't let people register similar domain names. Monitor, so on. Look at hacker chat rooms, see what they're doing, what they're up to. Create spam honeypots. But all this is not a magic bullet, silver bullet. Doesn't really solve all the problem. Okay. You can also do logo image recognition. Okay. These are just some different methods people have thought of before. Now, from phishing, we move to internet attacks. A lot of phishing used to be to create or to solicit private information. Okay, but now a lot of it is leading to examples where you're actually downloading a keylogger, spyware, whatever, right? So it's becoming an attack now. Internet attacks and phishing. Okay, a statement from the Department of Justice, US. Phishing problem has a lot of intersection with other problems we look at, such as malicious code and spam. Basically, it's opening up. Okay. We believe at ISS that to solve the problem, you need a net strategy. Okay, you need to look at everything in totality. Okay, it starts off with PAN, leads to security exploits. Could be sharing confidential information. You could be surfing pornographic websites. You could be downloading dangerous unknown attachments. A huge lot of things involved with email and web usage. Okay. Now hackers are getting serious. Before 2004, we could say that hackers were kids, script kiddies. Okay. Less than 100 could write shell code by themselves. Okay. The intention was basically to play. Damage was sometimes accidental, sometimes on purpose. Now, post 2004, I would say the hackers are getting serious. They've grown up, okay, literally grown up. There are many of them. You must have heard of different countries who have employed, different country governments who have employed hackers. Okay, intention is to profit. Damage is intentional. They're smarter, they're more serious, okay? So it's a bit more difficult to catch them. Okay. So we need smarter protection, okay? Simple measures used to stop hackers in the past. Antivirus products used to work as long as you have an updated antivirus product, it will look for the signature, you're safe, you're fine. Okay? A lot of script kiddies only ran exploits that they downloaded from the website. They did not create their own shell code. So 20 people downloading the same shell code or the same exploit, and you can prevent one of them is good enough. You can stop all of them because they're all using the same thing. But now it's different. Okay, they are bypassing the simple measures. They rush to respond to the latest antivirus updates. Okay, the hackers are keeping up with the antivirus guys now. The antivirus company sees an exploit, creates a signature for the exploit, not the vulnerability. Okay, they stop that exploit. The hacker modifies the exploit, then again it continues. Okay, so antivirus is cleanup, not prevention, in a certain sense. Okay, and hackers, of course, are writing their own exploits. A simple example, you must have seen this before, a lot of you. For those of you who are more savvy, you would have, in the movie The Matrix, Trinity, I think it was Trinity, sits down at a computer console and hacks into a system, right? Now, this is actually I would say, a realistic depiction of what hackers do. Now, in that particular scene, how she starts off is basically using Nmap to do a scan and then proceeds from there on. Of course, in the movie you have a lot of green figures falling and all that. That's just a graphical dramatization of hexadumps, okay? But it's real stuff, okay? So what we need is in-depth protection. Anti-spam solutions that have been discussed over the past few days, different methods of doing it, URL filtering, intrusion prevention systems, which is a keyword now, virus protection systems, perhaps virus protection systems that run virtual machines, okay, to capture the polymorphic viruses. You also need, what the vendor should be doing is doing new vulnerability research, okay, not new exploit research, not trying to solve the current known exploits, but trying to look for new vulnerabilities, okay, so that they can discover the threats before the hackers do and provide a prevention in advance of the hacker discoveries. And they also should be doing existing research. Find out the details before hackers write exploits. You have a vulnerability, you have a threat, you have an exploit, it's all different. I'll try to explain it in a short while, okay? And they should also create comprehensive proactive defense, okay? Just posting things to bug track, I don't think it's good enough, because by the time it's posted to bug track, a lot of people have already been hit by the bug, and that's why it's being tracked. And of course you can put in your signatures and stop it, okay? But if you could do it before, that would be better. So what's the difference? Protecting against exploits is reactive, right? You have a vulnerability, the exploit is out, and then you try to stop this exploit. Too late for many, and you change the variant of the exploit and you bypass that security device or solution. Very easy to do, okay? But at the moment, it's typical of many AV and most IDS or ITS vendors. Protecting against vulnerabilities is proactive. So vulnerability and exploit different, okay? We should be stopping the threats at the source, okay? But that requires advanced R&D, research and development, which not everyone can afford to sit down and do. Vulnerabilities and exploits. This is a simple picture of the child's game of blocks, right? Where the child tries to pick up a block and fit it into the right hole. Now think of the hole as a vulnerability in your network, your system. The blocks are the exploits that the hacker will try to use to fit into that vulnerability, right? So you pick a round block, you put it into a round hole, it fits. You have exploited the vulnerability, as simple as that. Okay, just trying to make it easy to understand the difference between a vulnerability and an exploit. Okay. No, sorry, back. Now, what's happening right now at the moment is that, to give a simple example, the exploit is a round block, vulnerability is known. So the antivirus companies, the IDS company says, okay, no red round block would go into the round hole. Okay? Because it's a signature, so they have to define exactly what. So it's a red round block going into a round hole, stop it. So they stop it. If I change the color of the block to blue, logically you should stop it, right? It's still a block, it's still round. But no, that's what's happening right now. Everything is signature based. Okay, everything just looks for the signature for the particular exploit, which is blatantly ridiculous. Okay. Zero-day protection or proactive protection, or what's the use of protecting when things already have gone wrong? You're not protecting, you're cleaning up. Okay. What we need is zero-day protection. Zero-day is defined or as the day the vulnerability is discovered or disclosed. So that's the timeline that we're starting off, 0 day, okay? So the timeline starts when a vulnerability is discovered. After this, you have a window of opportunity that is present. This is the post-vulnerability phase, okay? Now, the time between the 0 day and the time and the date that the exploit is released used to be years, months, weeks. Now we're talking about hours and minutes. Okay? From the time that the vulnerability is disclosed or discovered and the time that the exploit is released, you're talking about hours and minutes. Okay? And you need protection before or after that. Okay? You have to decide. Now, most organizations are slower than hackers. Agree? So, vulnerability is discovered or disclosed, exploit is released. Sometime later you have a patch. Now, in between that zone, you're a goner if you are what using a local term would be swayed. Okay? If you happen to have the bad luck of being the guy who couldn't wait for the patch, or you're the guy that the hacker targeted, okay? Unless of course you have a magic pill or silver bullet, okay? That stops that. Otherwise you are at the mercy of the hacker. All you can do is pray that it doesn't hit you until your vendor comes up with a patch. Okay? What we would like to be is in the proactive zone. We would like to have a solution before the exploit is released. Okay? Some people call this having a solution with perhaps what you could call a virtual patch. Now imagine you have a system with you have a network with thousands of systems. To patch them is not easy. Of course there are solutions out there in the market to patch them, but it takes time. You're running a manufacturing business, semiconductor. A new vulnerability has been discovered. Fortunately someone has come up with a patch. Fortunately you have not been hit yet. You've got to shut down all those systems and patch them. Shutting down those systems costs money, depending on the type of business you're in. Okay? Costs a different amount of money. Shutting down 1,000 systems and updating them, compared to perhaps having a solution that patches at the network level, so that you then have time to go and patch the remainder of your systems. You have scheduled downtime, which obviously you would have. So during your scheduled downtime, you could do the patch update. Okay? That's a concept of virtual patch, which I won't go into at the moment. Okay? So we have the proactive zone, we have the reactive zone, and most of us at the moment are in the reactive zone. Okay? After the exploit is released, we all start jumping up and down, waiting and praying and hoping for the patch. Okay? Because there's nothing you can do before that. Vulnerability is discovered, it's there, people are sitting up, creating exploits, and you're praying and hoping that your vendor comes up with the patch before the exploit. Okay? So it gets a bit complicated. You have to do a lot of manual patching and so on. And you have a lot of operating systems, applications, and so on. Okay, that's a real life thing. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could increase the proactive zone? If we could have something that protects us before the exploit is released, and even better, before the vulnerability is disclosed or discovered. How are you going to do that? There's no magic solution. The company or the vendor needs to be doing a lot of R&D to discover that before someone else discovers it. Right? It's not going to fall out of the sky. You can't snap your fingers and discover vulnerability. You have to do a lot of hard work. Well, sometimes it's not really hard work, depending on the vendor. Okay. A quick glance at the chronology I have here. A simple example of the blaster. July 1999, the X-Force researched the MSRPC and we discovered a vulnerability. On July 16 at 3:30, July 16 at 8:30, we engineered an exploit. Okay. July 17th, a few hours later, we updated our products. July 25th, first Chinese hacker exploit release. After that, a lot of other hackers improved on it. Okay. July 25th, 9 a.m. exploit release. July 17th, we are protected. July 16th, we found the vulnerability. Competition, July 27th. Okay, anyway, this is a marketing slide, but the only reason I'm showing you is because the dates are real and the times are real. Okay, so the other people came up with their whether free or vendor-related products. Okay, sorry, back. They came out much later. Their customers were open to attack for 2 days. August 11th, Blaster Worm appears. August 24th, Agabot, a variant. But a lot of the solutions that caught the blaster were not able to catch the variant because they were signature based. They were looking for that red color round block going to the round hole. Okay, looking for a particular signature. So it's very easy to bypass that. Okay, next please. So try to wrap this up quickly. The only way to do this is to do with a combination of methods. We have some white papers out there on the desk which you can collect later. One of the key ones is protocol analysis. Now, protocol is simple. It's just like the standard format of this. Simple in the sense that when too much data is received, then the data goes into other areas of memory, and you can make it do whatever you want. Example of a coffee cup being filled up to the brim, and you keep filling it up, falls into the saucer. Okay, simple example. Most buffer overflow exploits will simply crash the system, but most of the times now, a hacker finds a way of carefully crafting data in such a way to allow the hacker to control the system. Okay, I mean, not much use just crashing it. You just alert the user. But if you can go into the data areas and so on, which a lot of different people have shared over the past few days, if you can protect against that, that's great. How to detect with protocol analysis? Well, you should be looking for the buffer in the network traffic. Measure the length of the buffer and trigger when the buffer exceeds the length. Okay, I'll try to give you some examples. Pattern matching and buffer overflows, totally different ways. Pattern matching ignores the structure of the data. It looks for patterns within the data. They wait for hackers. So the only way to do this is wait for the hacker to publish the exploit, and then look for a signature that is unique to that exploit. Okay, the chosen pattern is then called a fingerprint or a signature of the exploit. Okay, but it will only appear in that exploit and nowhere else in the world. Okay, so it doesn't really make much sense. Protocol analysis has several advantages. Firstly, okay, it can be written before hackers write their first exploit for the vulnerability, because you're looking at the protocol, not looking at a particular exploit. Okay, but to do this, it's not easy. You need research and so on. We call it signatures, but I think the meaning of signature here is different. Okay, the signatures are written before hackers release the exploits, not after. Pattern matching, you have to wait for the exploit. Okay, otherwise you can't match. I'll try to rush through because it's already 12:17. Okay. Example session. Okay, this shows a packet capture which you can very easily do with Ethereal. Okay, because Ethereal looks at the protocol. It's a protocol analyzer. Okay, but Ethereal is not smart enough to look at the protocol and stop the attack. Okay, but it analyzes the protocol. Now note that the packet contains the word pipe. Okay. At the bottom right hand side, okay, can you see PIPE? Maybe not from the back. Okay, this is what signatures, many signatures look for, many products. Okay, also in the can't see my slide. Okay, in the Microsoft Local Security Architecture Directory Services. okay, or LSADS. The binary there, okay, or the portion of the packet starts, you may not be able to see it from the back. It starts with EC 030000, which translates to a decimal number 1004. Now this indicates the length of the buffer being overflowed. Now in that particular case, the limit I believe is 96. So 1004 is overflowing the buffer. But the products that are out there in the market look for that number, 1004. Okay? They look for that word pipe. So when Kogel came out, after they stopped Cesar, or some of them, okay, it was just a variant. Same thing, but a variant. Okay? It's the equivalent packet, but in Kogel. Now, it doesn't use pipe. Okay? So the word pipe is missing. And you also notice that in the first few bytes of the layer, again, you may not be able to see it from the back. It's AD0D0000, which translates to a buffer overflow length of 3,501. So the earlier variant was 1004, this one is 3,501, exploiting the threshold limit of 96. But the products out there look for the numbers, 1004, 3,501. Okay, so if I change that number, it will bypass the products. Okay, unless that solution looks at the buffer overflow length. It measures the length and it says, hang on, for this the limit is 96. Anything above 96 is a buffer overflow. So you don't look at the number, look at the logic of it. Okay. Okay, so protocol analysis signatures versus pattern signatures. Now, the two worms that we saw had different patterns. Their differences were, one, the different name pipe command. The first one was a transaction, the second one was a write command, and different exploit shell code. Okay, 1004 bytes versus the 3,501 long length. Okay, now we don't trigger on shell code. Therefore, no amount of polymorphing of shell code would ever evade us. Or at least that's what my R&D team tells me. Okay. Now, our chief scientist, actually Robert Graham, was one of the first to present polymorphic shell code at DEF CON, and that was, I believe, a year before AdMutate was published. Okay. And I'll be wrapping up very soon. So, in conclusion, in-depth protection, you need a lot of stuff. You need a lot of things to be in orchestra to solve the problem of phishing or internet attacks. Definitely you need anti-spam, many different ways of doing it. You can decide which is the best. You need to be stopped from going to illegitimate sites. It helps, okay? You cut down the spam, you cut down the URLs, but still some things could go through. You need intrusion prevention products. But I'm not saying by getting intrusion prevention products, everything is solved. It's not. That's just a tool, okay? You have to do a lot of other things, okay? And some attacks may bypass the intrusion prevention system. Certain types of virus attacks, which you will need a virus protection system, okay? And finally, you need or you should be doing regular scanning vulnerability assessment. You know, you can put everything safe, clean it all up, but someone brings in a new computer and you don't know what's in there, okay? Second last slide, okay? Market leadership, ISS. First vulnerability analysis tools, first commercial vulnerability assessment product. Maybe you're probably more interested in 2001, first gigabit intrusion protection product. Now our key strength is, how do we do all this? It's not magic. Of course you would see a lot of different slides from a lot of different vendors probably saying the same thing. How we do it is through our research team, R&D, X-Force, okay? So there's no magic solution. It's hard work. X-Force looks, we have monitoring centers, secure operating centers. We monitor around the globe. We watch what's happening out there on the internet. We monitor hacker chat rooms. We don't hire hackers, I'm told, but we monitor hacker chat rooms. We see what's happening. We have our ear to the ground. we look at what's happening, we try to decide which are the vulnerabilities to protect, and we try to come up with protection for them. Of course, we have a whole zillion vulnerabilities, but okay, you have to decide, or we have to decide. For more information, you can go to www.iss.net. You should be able to find everything that you need there. If not, you can always send us an email. And finally, last one. On behalf of Xbox, I thank you for your time today, and have a good lunch. And if you need any clarification, just see us. Thank you.